Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another installment of the GhostComms podcast. I am Jatmon, your host, donning my Pipeline jersey, which I'm very proud to don and wear. Had to point that out. You can see the flag in the background too. Joined by my co-host Vishal, and we have a really special episode today. A man who Aussie has donned the face of console Fortnite. We have MrGrifs with us today.
What's up, boys? It's a pleasure to be here, man. I haven't done many podcasts before, so I'm actually very excited.
Dude, they're fun. I think everyone who's come on, whether they're experienced it with it or not, has ended up enjoying it. Because I think that like we don't target anything. We're not trying to get anything out of you besides just your genuine reactions and stories and all of that. And it's pretty unstructured. I mean, we've got like bullet points, but that's about it. So. We just try and have a good time and really give people a view into you and your life and what inspires you and moves you as a creator and all of that. So first things first, kind of a formality. Like, where'd you grow up? What kind of stuff did you do in your childhood? How was gaming a part of your childhood? All of that.
Yeah, so I'm in Atlanta right now. I grew up in Georgia my whole life. Basically, I've been around sort of the Atlanta area.
Nice.
Yeah, my childhood mostly. I mean, honestly, I don't know. I grew up sort of around video games, but it was always like a more casual thing for me. It wasn't anything like super serious. My dad introduced me to it. We would play like. My first memory of gaming was sort of like with a PS2. A long time ago with like, I don't know, we played Ghost Recon, Star Wars Battlefront, things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was always sort of like a casual thing. Like I was definitely more like, my parents sort of like they wanted me to focus a lot more on sports in school, and that's basically what I did till I guess like more high school. I started getting more into gaming. But yeah, I excelled in athletics and in academics as well. And
what did you play?
I was a swimmer for most of my life.
Okay.
I have a state championship in that. A bunch of records still at my old school, and a 3-county record still.
Wow.
I'm also a 2-time state champion gymnast.
Wow.
And
really?
What the hell?
I did not know that. That's cool.
I ran track and cross country my whole high school as well.
Okay.
And
nice.
All of the non-mainstream sports for the most part.
Oh yeah, dude, that's what I'm always about, man. I'm so glad my parents.
You're always against the grain
because.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And it's also like those sports specifically are not like team sports, right? It's all on you.
Yeah.
It's sort of on you to put in the work and discipline and stuff like
it's you against yourself type of sport, as I've heard it put too.
Was that something you enjoyed doing, like individual, or was it that you just hopped into a sport and it was not a team sport that you got into it? Like, did you want to be?
Well, I guess with swimming, sort of, I was thrust into that at like 6 years old, and I kind of just did that to do it, and then I kind of grew into loving that. And then, I mean, I've tried team sports. Like, I played football, I played tennis, I played basketball. Like, I don't know, those sports are kind of. I've always gravitated more towards the like solo sports.
Yeah. Fair enough. I kind of talk about like the influence. So you said, so it's actually like we have this very common.
I was going to say we need a running counter at this point. We might in the episodes of how many people's dads got them into games.
Because my dad had nothing to do with mine. Mine was just like my cousin or a family friend kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm very similar. Like, gaming was kind of just like a side thing in my life. Like, it was a very casual experience, but I didn't realize until I got into esports how important it was to me. But like, it was like my parents handed me my first console. It was like a GameCube when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old, something like that. And like, it wasn't like my dad handed me a controller or like they played with me occasionally, but it wasn't. It seems like a very more like a more personal thing for a lot of people that we've met,
and at such a young age as well.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
I mean, like Fox was like. His dad put a controller in his hand at like 2 or 3 years old, something like that. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
Mine was like, dude, mine was a Wii controller, but that was my siblings. But that was like when I was like 4 or 5. I was not.
Yeah.
earlier than that.
Yeah,
because it just doesn't seem right at two. I'm not saying anything bad about it. It just doesn't I can't see myself at 2 years old.
Well, because you can't. There's no way you can understand what you're like doing or going on. Yeah, but I mean, they got that. There's that one Fisher Price toy. I don't know if people would know what I'm talking about. There's a game controller. It's like an actual thing. YouTubers have used it in videos too, but it's like a Fisher Price made a controller, and it has
Xbox controller?
It's very similar in the layout, but it's it's way over the top. It's the buttons are massive, it's like a baby toy, but it works as a controller too. But I don't know. It was really interesting. I remember the first time I saw that, and I was like, wow, I'm living in a different generation than what I grew up in. We've talked about that a lot too. Of there's a very distinct. It feels like a generational shift. My age, I'm 21 now, but even the people that are 5-6 years younger than me, which I come across a lot in the Fortnite scene, they feel like a completely different generation. I feel like I have very little in common with them, just by nature of they grew up with video games, and they grew up with all of this stuff that really wasn't developed until I was in late high school, early college. I mean, even Fort came out when I was a sophomore in high school, and I think that made my experience with the game extremely different than people who were in middle school, especially the middle school kids who are wearing Fortnite shirt and shorts and shoes head to toe, all that stuff. I just wasn't that. It was very low key almost for me.
Okay, like you said, so you grew up in Atlanta is what you said, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you've been there your entire life.
Yeah.
So okay, what do you think the influence of being around people in Atlanta that weren't let's say when did you start taking gaming more serious before we actually get into this?
The second half of high school, basically.
Okay, so would you say 11th grade, 10th, 11th grade type of thing, right? So would you say that the people in your life before that, maybe they were gamers, maybe they weren't? Do you think that those people made an influence on you being a gamer, you being an athlete, all that type of stuff, or would you say that you just got into naturally on your own?
Yeah, I would say I definitely had a lot of friends that were I guess more into gaming than I was, and I would go over to their house, and they would have all the consoles and stuff, and it would get me really into it. And I knew I had that addiction. I don't know, within elementary school, I would be playing games at my friends' houses and be damn, I want this right now, and I would go to my mom and tell her, get this for me. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think the influencers are there. And also, I think the influences in sports too, because that's mostly the people I was around in terms of athletes and stuff. And then sort of, I guess, in free time, whenever we had free time. I mean, the difference sort of in the sports that I did was a lot of time is spent in those. Once you sort of get to the higher levels, it's it's a 4 hour a day thing, or maybe even longer. You're going to 2 practices a day and stuff like that. So it's you don't really have a lot of free time for stuff like that. So in terms of the sports space, definitely less gaming was involved there. But in terms of friends that I've made more in school and stuff, I think that's sort of where the gaming influence came, and definitely from my dad too. I mean, like you said, it's a theme, your parents get you into it. I honestly, I already told my girlfriend, I'm getting our if we have a kid, I'm getting him in the gaming early, and we're gonna play together, and it's gonna be the best thing ever, because those are some of my favorite memories with my dad I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of a similar situation for me. A lot of people in my high school, a lot of people even in elementary, it was just most of us were into sports. But there was definitely times where we did game, but it wasn't serious. Nobody took it serious. You didn't even know if anybody took it serious. But later, I think quarantine definitely helped with it a lot. But I was just asking because that's interesting. Because my thing was the only time I played games a lot, I guess, was probably the summer break. Because if I didn't have anything to do, I would never play in elementary school with.
Well, and it just wasn't. It wasn't really a thing. When I was growing up,
the gaming culture now. I mean,
it wasn't. It wasn't viewed as something that you could make a career out of. I mean, it was viewed universally pretty much as a waste of time, and it was just you do it when you're waiting for dinner to be made, or something where it was just it's a time killer. It's a thing that you do when you can't go outside, it's raining or whatever. It very much was not viewed the way that it is today, in that it's making careers and shaping culture, and so heavily embedded in everything that we do. So it was just a different time, and I think that there are a lot of results of that I can see now, like being in the esports space, but not having grown up with gaming being the way it is now. Like it makes me view it very differently. And I think I was prepared for gaming to be the worldwide kind of sensation that it became during COVID because I grew up going outside. I grew up, playing sports and playing all that stuff. And like, I wasn't, like some of these kids now, I wasn't 13, 14, 15, locking myself in my room for 8-9 hours a day, grinding out a game, like whether it be arena or, whatever game that they're choosing. So I think it definitely had some effects. But before we kind of get into that more, I kind of want to backtrack to when did you like find Fort? When did you kind of get into that? Like what was the beginning of that for you?
I mean, I've played Fortnite since the beginning, and honestly, I would say it was kind of my friends that got me into it. I mean, I guess I feel like that's a popular theme with people I've asked too, who got into it earlier back then, was like a friend sort of introduced it to them.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing for me. My friend came to me and was like, let's play this game. I was like, all right, let's run it up. It was like 2017. And I mean, bro, it was like, I've explained this to other people. It was an instant hook for me, man, because I've been around the gaming sphere already for a long time. I'm a big Halo fan and like Call of Duty, but definitely Halo. And so it's like when a game comes out, like Fortnite was, comparing it to like sort of the H1Z1 era, I was like, this battle royale genre of gaming, Fortnite has absolutely perfected it, and this is going to be the thing, bro. And I got completely hooked on it. Yeah. And then, I mean, bro, since the first day it was sort of introduced to me in like 2017, I was on it every single day.
So how did that kind of grow into content creation? Where did that idea kind of first come from? Where you were like, man, I want to start, kind of creating content around this game, or did it start before then? Or where did that content creation journey start for you?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what a lot of people don't know about me. I was heavily into content creation. Like it was already a job for me before Fortnite. I was a pretty big YouTuber for another game. I had like 130,000 subs. Wow. It was like my high school job basically, and I did it through, I guess, like the first probably year of college too.
Okay.
Do you want to say what game it was?
But yeah, there's a game called Growtopia. Here, I'll type the YouTube channel there too if you want to look at that. It's called Shadow Surfer. I mean, it's fully abandoned now because I've sort of like transitioned away from it.
Wow.
It's sort of like I guess I would compare it to like a Minecraft or Roblox YouTuber, and I was like kid friendly.
Yep.
I sort of was kind of. I mean, I was into this game before Fortnite. Got into it around 2013, and quickly Ubisoft bought it, and I closely became close with a lot of the Ubisoft workers for that game, and they sort of came to me and was like, hey, you should like make some YouTube videos about it. I was like, all right, sure, let's do it. And I mean, it quickly exploded from there. Had a huge Instagram following too. So I would always contribute my success for Fortnite content creation to having success before that.
Yeah.
And in terms of like commentary, in terms of YouTube thumbnails,
sure. I mean, I think that a lot of people who have longevity in the scene or who are successful now started way before, a lot of people who are successful in the Fort scene.
It's a craft, man. It really is.
It is. And a lot of people who are successful in the Fort scene built the skills that made them successful way before then. I mean, I know for me as a content creator, like I'm very confident that I am and will continue to grow and make it in this scene because I was in performing arts growing up. I was on stage. I mean, when I was in 8th, 9th, and 10th grade, I hosted our school's talent show. I was in a suit on stage reading off cards. I had a production in my ear. Like I've experienced with a lot of that stuff that a lot of people don't have those experiences. And I know that makes me better on camera. I know it makes me better at reading, all of that stuff.
100%.
So like a lot of people, they started somewhere else with another game or even just like doing videos on their own, but just things like getting comfortable in front of a camera, knowing how to recite a line, improv, all of that stuff. It's a craft. It's a skill that you can hone and get better at. Because I think there's a misconception in kind of the esports industry as a whole that you're either talented or you're not, and that's the end of it. And that's just not. I mean, even for games, like talent is just a starting place. I heard this in sports growing up. my whole life was hard work will beat talent every time if talent doesn't work hard. And that was, I think that rings true for basically everything in life. And it certainly pertains to content creation. There are so many things. I mean, you talk about a Mr. Beast or any of the massive people who have made the come up. He spent years with a group of I think it was 5 or 6 guys. I might be wrong on that, but just learning YouTube algorithms, YouTube thumbnails, learning what keywords to use, what tags, whatever, to make their videos the most successful. They were learning how to manipulate the algorithm in the program to make successful content. The content could be exactly the same, the content of the video, but it was about, all the dressing around it. It was about learning and growing and refining this craft, and it can be a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, that's super cool. I guess a question that arises for me is, why didn't you kind of keep that branding that you had on the old YouTube and the success you had built in transitioning to Fortnite when you kind of made that transition to content?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, dude, that's the main question people ask me whenever I sort of show them that. I mean, there's a good reason for it, and I always sort of explain it I've never sort of content creation for me and growing social media brands and growing social medias and things like that. That's sort of fun for me to do. I never sort of was in it for the money. I was never in it for it to be a job. And which
is how it should start, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people agree on that. I mean, if you're in it for the money, I don't think you're in the right industry, because it's not a get rich quick scheme or whatever. But
it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But that was where the enjoyment came from for me. And I don't know. I always explain to people, I'm like, I just wanted to start back at zero again, man, because that's that's what the most fun is for me. I mean, I've grown other accounts. I mean, in a bunch of other genres, I don't know, TikTok, sketch, comedy, things like that. It's I don't know. I just love growing social medias and starting from zero, especially with a whole nother platform other than YouTube, which was Twitch for me. It was I wanted to start with an audience that doesn't know me from my past. And I could also be my authentic self, because I explained, on that YouTube channel, I cannot swear. I can't. I mean, I can't really be who I am.
Right.
And then on Twitch, I really am. That's really who I am. And so it'd be kind of. I sort of wanted to separate those audiences, and it wasn't. That wasn't something that I felt like I was going to be able to do. And I just like I said, I just wanted to start back and see if I could build something up again.
Yeah. So let me know, kind of, because this is the way I word it to people, and I want to know if this kind of resonates with you. I view content creation as what I love about it, and it's kind of what you were talking about, of it's like a puzzle that you get to figure out. It's you get to figure out what pieces are the best for you. You get to figure out what content works best for you. You get to say, hey, these are my strengths now. And for me, the puzzle comes in of what's the best content I can be making on what platform and whatever. All of the pieces need to be put together properly to make those strengths be highlighted the best. And it's this constant game or puzzle that you get to play kind of with yourself. And it kind of going back to what you were talking about with sports, it's a me against me thing. I get to improve at my craft all the time. And I get to be figuring out the best version of me as a content creator, the best content I can be making kind of as time goes on. And that's what drives me to do it. And that's what drives me to be the best content creator I can be. I mean, I could care less about numbers. It's more about figuring out what that is and making the best quality content for me and my strengths and growing as a creator in that sense. Does that kind of resonate? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and honestly, like you're saying, I feel once you figure that out, that's when the success comes. It's
for sure.
I could probably name on two hands people that really got lucky in social media and it became a job. It's this is people don't really get lucky. This is a honed skill and a honed craft. And once you really learn it, you could introduce it to everything and be successful on every platform.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that if you're a content creator that's trying to make it to the stream and you into the scene in a unique way, you have to have your downs to have your ups. You can't
100%, bro.
Because you're never gonna stay to the brim consistent, because there's so many creators, even YouTubers. You look at if you were to take Mr. Beast, for example, their videos will, of course, they'll do 200 million views, 300 million views. Yeah. But there are also videos that will do 50 million, and he'll be okay, it didn't work.
Yeah.
That's his inconsistency. Of course, to you, it's still massive numbers, but to him, that's still, oh, it didn't do as well. What do I do next time?
No, there are ups and downs. And I mean, we talk about like Arab switched to IRL. He posted about this. He's been very transparent about it, but like, he's like, yeah, it took me a year to figure out like how it actually all worked, this niche that I wanted to be doing. And then the videos, like, then they started banging. Then he started being more consistent with high viewership, and he started growing a lot more. But it took a year of him figuring that out and doing the same type of content. I mean, it's the same content. Like, he isn't changing that much about it. The gist of it is the same, but he's been refining it, slowly. And these micro changes that he's making got him to the point where, oh yeah, now it's hitting, and now he's making a very successful career for himself on YouTube as opposed to Twitch and all of that.
I think
bro, he's killing
bro,
it.
like you said, man, like those ups and downs, honestly, in my opinion, I think that is the absolute like breaking point for a lot of people, whether they are cut out for this or not cut out for this, because those ups and downs, like you don't see that in a regular job usually. Like, it is massive, and it will take a toll on you if you aren't ready for it. And the people that are cut out for it are the ones that are going to push through that and be successful. And you can instantly tell, like, you're not cut out for that.
That is not complaining about it. It's not talked about a lot. That is because it is. I mean, I've talked about it with people that I know, but I've never articulated it that well. Of like, I've seen people that were on Twitch that were doing way better than me when I first started and growing way faster than me. And like, there were these like bouts of, comparison and discouragement, which you learn to like weed out as a creator. But like, especially when I was starting out, dude, I'm like, oh man, this guy's growing hundreds of followers faster than me. He's got way more average viewers, whatever. But I've seen every single person that I've ever like grinded alongside, or I've like viewed myself as equal to, they've all quit. They've all stopped doing it. And it's like, man, they like, a lot of them did have potential. And if they had kept going like I had, who knows where they would be? Maybe they'd be way bigger than me. But like, that mental fortitude, man, it's not talked about a lot, and it's one of the main aspects of determining success as a creator, because you are going to put up with emotional turmoil. You're going to feel like your self-worth is going to go down. Like, you're going to have these bouts of like depression, nights where you're just like, why did I start any of this? Why do I do this? And it's a matter of like, I know for me, when I hit those, I know this is what I want to do with my life. I know no matter how bad that night gets, I'm like, I'm waking up tomorrow and I'm streaming because I just love it 100%. Too much. And like, a lot of people, it's a thing that you have to develop in yourself to be able to, like, whatever you're going through, get up the next day. And really it has to come from a place, I guess for me, it comes from a place of like streaming and content creation. That fuels me. Like, that's my life fuel. Like, that's my lifeblood. And like, that's why no matter how shitty life is in the moment, I get up and I do it because that's what I love to do the most. That's what brings me the most joy and fulfillment. And like, I feel purpose when I'm doing that in my life. And I haven't heard that from other, like a ton of other creators, but the more successful and bigger people I've talked to in the scene, the more that begins to like resonate. And I'm like, oh, this is a commonality. This is the common denominator that's shared amongst all of these people who have made success in the industry, is like that passion, and that, they're so determined, regardless of the numbers, regardless of the results, they're going to do this whether they want to or not. Like, if they have to work 2 jobs to keep themselves, so that they can afford the equipment that they want, they're going to do that because it's about them as a person. It's about like a purpose for them, or something that just gives them like that kind of fuel to love life and to be high on it. And I think that makes the difference between what is going to be a successful creator and not, because, like we were talked about, it's a skill that you can hone. You can learn all the stuff that you need to learn as a creator, but if you don't have that drive, that's going to be the thing that halts you in your tracks. So,
dude, well, but okay, before we get into console, before we get into like the whole console scene, because of course that's one of the bigger topics when it comes to you. But this is a really big question. Someone literally asked me this last night, and I knew how to answer it, but it's a question a lot of people don't know how to answer. So, for those of you who don't know, I finished high school recently, and also going to university for a film degree, Bachelor of Fine Arts, whatever it's called. So the other day I was out with not even a close friend, just a friend, and we just wanted to go on a drive. We were just chilling for the night, and he asked me a really good question, and I'm actually happy he asked me this, because some people will ask you and they'll be scared to ask because it's like, oh, they don't know if they're being mean, they don't know if they're being offensive. But I'd rather someone ask me this, and they asked me, if filming content don't work, what do you do now?
Mm.
And my thing was, the way I answered this, I was really happy to answer it, honestly. The way I answered it was, I haven't even looked to what can be now. I don't have a backup plan. Because I feel like having a backup plan will also restrict you to certain things. Like, you'll always have that second thought in the back of your mind, and I don't want that. And I know I can make something work with this, even if it means I don't do exactly what I want in film, and then I switch over to something else. At least I'll be doing something that I'm passionate about and happy about. It's a cool question. Like, for you guys, like, this is a question open to both of you. If content doesn't work, what do you do now?
I'll let Grifs take that first and all.
Yeah, well, I graduated college last year, and I have a really good degree. I graduated from Georgia Tech, and like,
nice.
That's always sort of my fallback plan. But I also, honestly, in my mind, I'm in your mindset. I'm really in your mindset, because I feel like, for me, it's like I've been successful in so many different genres, so many different platforms. It's like I have full confidence in myself that I could be completely successful in any other like sort of space on social media and content creation. So it's like that for me is like, honestly, if Twitch falls off, it's like I'm going to another platform. I'll be successful there. It's like that's sort of my.
I'll make it happen type of thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely resonate with what both of you have said. I mean, for me, like, I'm not going to stop content creation no matter what. I mean, like, I'm at a point where I'm just like, if I have to work a job to support it, and it's not my main source of income, that's fine. I mean, it's not the ideal. I would love to make it to where it's my main source of income, so I can give all of my time and focus to that. But if I have to be working a job or whatever, on the side to pay for that, because it's not about, it just being my money source at the end of the day. It's not about easy money. It's not about any of that. It's about, I love to do it. It's my lifeblood. Like, I need to be doing it. It's part of who I am. And I remember it took a while for my parents to get that too, because they're like, you're spending so much money on this, like, you're putting so much into it. Like, what happens if it doesn't pay out? And I'm like, I had to explain to my mom. She's been a musician her whole life, my whole life too. And like, she's been in bands, she's been whatever. And like, I had to explain to my mom, I'm like, Mom, this is my music. Like, the way you think about music and how you can't live without it, this is what this is for me. Like,
that's a good comparison.
I can't live without this. Like, there's a part of me missing when I'm not doing this and when I'm not giving it my all. And like, that's where I get to. I would be successful in a lot of other things. I could go into sales. I could go into investing. I don't really care, because I'm at the same place of like, it's not even like I think there's a chance. I know that I'm going to make it, because I'm just not going to stop. And like, I'll do what I have to support myself if I'm not, if it's not my main source of income and like my back's against the wall. But like, I just know that I'm going to keep doing it until I am, because like, really the only person who can stop you is yourself, I guess, in that. And like, I know that I have the tools necessary. I know I have the skills. Like, I'm going to be successful in this industry because I'm just going to make myself. And like that, it's, and I think that's kind of where both of you are coming from as well. Like, you just kind of know. I've tried to explain it to people as like, I know that I'm going to be successful in this as much as I know that 2 + 2 is 4. And they don't, like, some people just don't get that. But like, to me, it's a fact of life. And like, I don't know, that's just kind of where I come from with that. So for you, kind of talking about niches and finding, your best content and whatever, how did you end up as the console guy? How did you really find that niche and kind of start running with it?
I would say, I mean, it's been a long journey for that road specifically. It initially started once Epic actually announced that there's an Evan CS route for consoles specifically. They announced the PC Evan CS route and then the console Evan CS route, and both were the exact same prize pool. So it's like, I mean, you already know right there. It's like there's already a niche right there. There's going to be probably more people playing console than playing PC Evan CS at that point if it's the same prize pool. And so there was huge push there. But honestly, around that time, I was sort of streaming because I wanted to. I always told people this is how I got into streaming. Really, I started streaming because I wanted to look back in VODs and improve myself as a competitive Fortnite player.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people started. That was the focus. I feel like was the pro dream. 100%. Yeah.
I made money in World Cup. Once they announced console, I focused so much on console and like doing the best I can. We end up making trio grands. My stream, that's basically the start of my stream. I mean, I was streaming every single day for like a year straight up until we made trio grands. And then after that, I actually started to average some viewers, grow a base there. then I sort of I got close with a lot of people in the scene because of making grand finals.
Yeah.
And I became friends with a lot of people who had influence in the scene. Namely, this guy named Cartoon Paul, who ran all the scrims for console. He did everything, and
the name sounds
we
very,
started.
Rings a bell.
We started collaborating together on his Discord server. Whenever he couldn't host, I would host for him, and that really started the promotion for my like Twitch. In terms of like hosting console scrims and stuff like that. And then about a year into that, he was just like, I'm done with Fortnite. I'm moving on. And then I was like, all right, man, someone's got to take over. And like, who else is in a better position to do it than me? Me and Janiel started our Discord server together because I felt like I always needed someone on my side to sort of partner with that in. And I just started hosting console every single day. And that was just kind of a slow growth from that point, just because people started to know me as the person hosting console scrims guy, tournaments. I would reinvest a bunch of money into doing console tournaments for people and just giving back to the community. And that's sort of like my journey in a short sense of how that happened.
I mean, we've talked about this a lot, especially since Dallas, because LANs are just so massive for it. But networking is just like people, you get this question. If you stream it all on Twitch in the Fortnite category, you will get the question of like, how do I grow on Twitch? Because so many of those young Fortnite kids have the dream of being the next Clicks or whatever. And I know I get this question all the time when I'm live. And honestly, networking was not one that I heard for a long time, which is crazy because it's like darn near the most important thing that you can do. I mean, just, like you said, like that connection, it ended up kind of being the beginning for you. And I know for me, that was like, and I've told this story a lot, but I went to Invitational knowing no one. I wasn't really known in the scene. I mean, I had like 1.5K on Twitch, but like that's, I hadn't really been involved in the comm at all. I didn't know anybody big. And I ended up meeting Bronos and Foxman through that, and then DM'd Bronos on Twitter a few times, and like he ended up being the first episode of this podcast, and that is what got us like anything that I have now. It kind of came as a domino effect from that, and it just doesn't get talked about a lot. Like knowing the right people is massive, and a lot of that just comes from like, be a good person. Like don't be a good person for the sake of like of networking, but like be a good person, and that networking will happen because you don't just like, you aren't just a dick to everyone. Like you can burn so many bridges preemptively by your reputation or just by how you treat people in general. And it's like, it just being a nice person, reaching out to people, whatever. You'll start to meet people, and then it was funny too, because like as soon as I made that connection with Bronos, all of a sudden, like once you know one person in the comm, it's like everyone. Like every new person you meet, they already know someone that you know. So it's like once you're in, you're in. And that's super valuable. I mean, I've found so many things that I've gotten to do, collaborations and other stuff, and it got me on PL and like all this stuff now. And even stuff like every guest that we get on the podcast now is like people that I have probably interacted with at least a time or two now. That I have a connection to, and that's just an awesome thing to feel. But I just really touching on the importance of networking and how powerful it is, because it doesn't really get talked about in the Fort scene a lot, or at least not that I've seen. I guess in the more generalized or broad media, it gets talked about in the circles of people who have already made it and already know that. But it doesn't really get talked about to the kids posing that question.
Imagine how Saudi is.
Yeah, Saudi is crazy. Yeah, but. So you start this console thing, you start getting known as a console guy, you start growing in that, and that got, even Aussie said like, you're the face of console Fortnite now. And I think console is super interesting in this game particularly because it seems so severely underrepresented, but it's a majority of the player base. And that like, Aussie, I know Aussie talks about that a decent amount every time a console Champions Cup comes around, or when we talk about splitting the FNCSs or whatever. But have you really come to like love and grow? Like, have you really come to grow to love like the console scene? Do you like, how do you view yourself in relation to it?
I think honestly, I like I mean, you said the face of console. I'm more of like the leader of the console competitive scene, right? So in terms of like, in the majority of the player base are the 10-year-old, 12-year-old like pub players, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah, for sure.
like the competitive scene for console has definitely declined. When is this episode going out, by the way?
Should be
Let's see. We have this
tomorrow.
Friday already. So
Yeah.
next Friday.
Next
Yeah.
Friday.
Friday. Okay, so that's good. I mean, so honestly, here's the thing. Like, this is interesting because I haven't talked about this with anyone yet. We're sort of announcing tomorrow that our Discord is allowing PC and console now. Mostly
Nice.
because honestly, it's like, in terms of my growth, I've done the absolute maximum I can in terms of like the console ceiling. Like, there's really no more to grow unless Epic gives us more, which is just not going to happen. It's like we get
it can't be
a
reliant
console
on Epic
Champions
for
Cup.
anything.
Yeah, definitely. Like,
Yeah.
we have a console Champions Cup. We had PS Cups every month, and now they're seasonal. So it's like less and less people are playing console competitive. People don't really want to scrim. It's like, I got to do something, because next season, if it stays the same way, it's like we're not going to fill console scrims anymore. And even the fact that we're still filling them now is like pretty impressive. Just
for sure.
It's really died as like a platform.
Well, I mean, I think it probably due to that underrepresentation and kind of the, I mean, I don't want to say laughing stock because I don't think that's the right analogy, but certainly people don't take console competitive as seriously as PC. They're like, oh, you'll
realistically,
never.
they shouldn't. Let's be honest, because it's you're less FPS, you're on more graphics. It's like, it's not the top of the top competitive platform. So it makes sense that they don't.
Yeah, but I mean, like, just kind of discrediting them. I think they take it too far, I guess, in the sense of like, some of those guys work just as hard, you know, and it literally is just because they can't afford a PC or whatever, and like, but they're VODing the same amount of hours, they're playing, they're grinding. I mean, after switching to PC, going back to console a few times just for fun, or like when I didn't have access to a PC, it's terrible. I mean, the delay, the FPS, the graphics. I mean,
hard,
it is
bro.
it is just a miserable experience, like to play on. It really is. Like, if once you've experienced PC, especially, you're like, when you know what you're missing out on and you've felt that, like, it is night and day. But I mean, you know, when we talked about this, when we had our last guest on Somebody's Gun, like, you know, he talked about like the buy-in for PC gaming is really high. I mean, that, you know, it's just not something that everyone can afford. And I think that's, especially when you have these kids where their parents are not, you know, at the place where, like, these kids aren't at the place where they can buy their own PCs. Because I think a lot of people that are in more our age range, like, saved up for their PCs and bought them on their own and whatever, if they wanted to like really get into esports. But these kids are like, you know, 13, 14, 15. They're at a place where they're not doing that, and their parents aren't necessarily convinced of like, oh, I'm going to buy this kid a $3,000 PC or whatever. So there is like there's this disparity, this disconnect, and that's why I think where a lot of the console kind of community is born from, is like, it's just not in the cards for them. And that's, you know, that's just a fact of life. That's not it. That's not anything to do with Fortnite. And, you know, and they, especially now, there's not a way to like win one tournament and now all of a sudden you can afford a PC, you know, maybe console Champions Cup if you know, win first. But it's like, there aren't a lot of avenues, you know, to where you could get enough earnings to get a PC. So you're kind of stuck in that until you can generate that revenue another way. But yeah, I mean, it's severely underrepresented, and it's an important part of the scene. I mean, you talk about what funds the game, you talk about all of that. Console like that, it's a majority of the player base. They're the ones buying the skins. They're the ones.
It's the number one of their revenue source, honestly, in terms of console sales. You know.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like they may not be, you know, the best competitively just by nature of the disparity of performance and hardware, but they're certainly an important part of the community of the game. And I think they're overlooked, I guess, in that sense. Sure. And I've seen some kids out there, man, who are on, especially those new gen console players, dude. Like, they would whoop my ass. That's just how, like, straight up, like, even on the high delay, on the low FPS, whatever. Like, they are good. It's crazy. Like, they grind so hard, and they have huge disadvantages, and they're still that good.
They're willing to work with what they got.
Yeah, and it makes me root for them. It's like, man, go win something and get a PC and be crazy and like be cracked. Like, absolutely.
And bro, we've seen that happen, man. I mean, most like specifically like Cam too. I mean, he's came from console, dominated PC scene in terms of like cash cups and things like that. I mean, TK is another person. I think we're always going to see people come from console, go to PC, and really excel there just because of how much they've grinded on the platform. But I think it's kind of cool too, because I mean, like you said, the disparity there in terms of not being able to buy a PC, that means a lot of player base on console is a lot younger than the PC player base.
Right.
So it's going to be cool to see these kids sort of like grow up and if they choose to still pursue gaming, it's going to be cool to see some of them be really successful, because I mean, I could definitely see it happen in terms of the skill level of these guys, man, that I've seen, bro. It's like it's inevitable if they really push it.
Right. Well, and they've already got that grind set, right? Of like, you can't change the hand you're dealt. You just got to make the most that you can with it. And I think you're right. If they continue to do that, when those opportunities arise, to get better, that mindset is what will carry them through. So I guess a kind of a question for you, being the head of competitive console Fortnite. What would you like to see Epic do? What do you think would revive that space? What do you think would bring more light to it, bring more representation, whatever? I mean, because I think something that we like that, PC players have been asking for a long time is like separate lobbies, separate tournaments, completely whatever. How would you feel about that?
Dude, listen, man, I have so many ideas for that. And it's honestly been sad to see just Epic sort of neglect not even console specifically, but like realistically competitive in general for their game.
Sure.
I mean, obviously they have reasonings for that they're not going to specifically say. But like, man, I think one of the things I've always pushed for is have a console FNCS, maybe not be branded FNCS, but have something like that where it's weeks of tournaments. But bro, we could even have a prize pool that's 30% of the PC FNCS prize pool, which would be pennies to Epic Games, but it would absolutely revive the entire scene, and it would have so many people playing.
For sure.
Well, and we've seen this this philosophy out of Epic, especially recently, like with the rank change and with making the loot pools the same as pubs and all of that. Of like they are making it's very clear that they're trying to make it the easiest it's ever been to make a casual player transition into competitive. And like I do feel like console is a massive step of that. Like like you said, even if it was a 30% prize pool of FNCS, but having something where they feel like they can compete and actually have a chance, and then develop that, and then if they do, oh well, I won grands in console FNCS, I want to move up now and see if I can compete at a higher level of PC. And then you develop this pipeline where people can go through this cycle that's kind of predetermined of like development for X level, all the way up to, oh, you're a tier 1 pro now, but I think there is, kind of a disconnect there of like, you have to really have a lot of faith or a lot of resources to make that jump from console to PC without really having necessarily the results to show for it, unless you're placing on PC, which is like, then you're already unbelievably good. So it's like, I think it would be a massive step for competitive in general, because anybody who is transitioning from casual to competitive, more competitive players, more competitive people is good for competitive always. That's always a good thing. And like,
man, if we're talking about transitioning from casual to competitive, it's like the casual player base, more than 60-70% of them are on console. It's that is their base, man.
So
that makes sense as well, though. That makes sense with how many kids play the game and their parents.
Well, I mean, you have 200 million people playing the game. You think how many people out of that can even afford a PC? It's like the numbers kind of work themselves out.
And also because of how young the age.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, so it's like that's what's accessible. You gotta. I mean, it's like. Yeah, I mean, comp is not being really catered towards anyone right now, but it's certainly like you're not catering to a massive base that you have there. And I've advocated for a console FNCS for a long time, even if it's half or less of the prize pool. It's not really about that. It's about recognizing the people who want to get into the competitive side of the game, who don't have access to a PC. I mean, it's just that simple. I think
something sorry to cut you off, but I think something we haven't even touched on there specifically, that I've always pushed for too. One, the fact that, I mean, half of the people in these like console or CCC finals lobbies are PC players that just come to console to steal the money, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be a tournament that is a console FNCS that runs during the times of PC FNCS, so that PC players aren't pushed to go to console, steal the money from the console players that really need it and probably deserve it.
For sure.
That definitely needs to happen.
I mean, it's like an NBA player going down to like college for like for like March Madness,
so
and it's
easy
like
for them, especially the controller, man.
It's so like easy. Oh, LeBron James enrolled in Kentucky University for March Madness. You're like, dude, what? Like, yeah, I mean, it is. It's I've had a problem with that for a while as well, because it's basically smurfing, but like it's like, oh, but you're on, it's like, oh, well, you got the console, but it's like for a pro who's making X amount of money in salary, and also is getting massive earnings from PC grands, dropping $300, $400, $500 on a console for a tournament is nothing. And
it's an
also
investment,
the video that they make from it is probably going to make that much and then some. So it's like it's something that I'm like, I don't love that. I don't love the idea of just, like you said, they're kind of stealing that prize pool away from kids who could make something out of themselves if they were to be the ones to get it. And, it's like there isn't an avenue, especially when there are so few already, and then they're being taken by people who are already up there. Yeah.
I think specifically there too, it's like, it shouldn't be restricted. Like, we shouldn't restrict PC players from coming to console, but there should be something better to play during the times of like a major console tournament that PC players would want to play over that. That's what.
Well, I mean, like have it like during the solo cash cup, or have it during like one of the weeks of FNCS or something. I mean, like where like you said, like people who are very serious about PC competitive have to prioritize whatever tournament that is over console. Because then it's like, and then the console players get a choice too. If they want to try and play up to that FNCS level, and try and qual to whatever round they want, they can. Or if they want to try and compete for the console FNCS or whatever that is, then they can do that as well. I mean, it just, it's about providing opportunities and avenues. And because I think that's great for competitive too, is storylines. I mean, we talked about this with SBG as well.
No,
of like, 100%. I mean, if a kid really, he started on console, he won console FNCS, and then he switched to PC, I mean, the cams, the TKs, those are stories that sell. That gets people, watching. That gets people as fans. That, that's what, is going to generate like a jersey sale, let's say, at the end of the day, is people who follow those stories, get invested in these people on a personal level and said, oh, wow, this is where he came from. He's inspiring me to want to do the same. I mean, I know as a creator, I can point to several people where I'm like, they like them making this series or them doing this thing is what encouraged me to want to try and do content creation as well. And that certainly happens in a competitive state.
Yeah, I think specifically with that, it's like, I mean, I think it's cool because, sorry, hold on.
No, you're fine.
You're good. While we wait for Grifs to finish up, if you guys haven't already, make sure to check out all the socials. Grifs are all down below in the description. Grifs, Pipeline, ours. Check out the Pipeline merch. It's actually up on store right now. I don't know is it just PipelineEsports.com? What is it?
No, it's arma.gg/collection/pipeline.
Go check that out. Yep. We got a lot of stuff up there. I think there's jerseys,
Arma,
hoodies.
Yeah, there's a little bit of everything.
Okay. A little bit of everything. Go check
those
out.
Shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and then flags as well that you can hang in the background.
You just said flags. You just said
flags. Did I? Well,
times.
Okay, well.
Good job, bro.
Okay, sorry. What I was saying, for my damn audio was weird. Storyline specifically, it's been cool for me, like doing viewing parties and stuff, pushing that, learning how to push storylines has been a really cool thing for me to learn the skill of. And I even think like Aussie bringing me on, that was the main reason he brought me on to his viewing party. It's like he doesn't know much about these kids, and like I'm able to explain a lot of the cool things surrounding either the competitions, the rivalries, the stories of a lot of these kids playing. It's a really cool thing.
Yeah, no, it is. It's good for gaming in general. I mean, you talk about because I make a lot of comparisons to the sports industry in the esports industry, and I think that's one of the best things about sports that they've done is really highlighting those storylines. I mean, you hear about all the basketball players like Jimmy Butler, the whole thing that they did on Jimmy Butler, about how he, was kicked out of his own house. He was living with somebody else. They took him in. They encouraged him to keep competing in sports. He was playing basketball through this really rough time in his life where he didn't have a stable home life, stable family life, whatever. And that, now he's, getting to the finals in the NBA and all of that stuff.
That's where your viewership comes from, man.
Exactly. That's where jersey sales come from. That's where ticket sales come from. That is, I mean, people are the heart of everything competitive, everything sports. And that's like, I think that's where esports, especially because it's digital, because it's, behind screens and whatever, it doesn't necessarily do that as well. And I think we have to find creative ways to do that, which I think is part of what makes the LAN experience so special. I mean, I talk about Invitational in every episode because it really was magical. I mean, it really made me feel connected to this group of people in a way that it felt more like being on my football team growing up, or, going to an NFL game or whatever it is. It felt more like that than anything else. It felt like a sports environment. And it really started to blend those lines for me of esports versus sports, because there are distinct differences, obviously, but I think they're a lot more similar than they are different. And that was Invitational and the LAN experience. And then the dream hacks that I've been to following that, have certainly changed my mind on that. It really is. That's when it feels like a sports environment. When you're sitting, around someone as he's about to clutch or whatever. I mean, you get the same rush of adrenaline as, when you're watching an intense moment in an NFL game or an NBA game or whatever.
Yeah, dude, I push for those LAN experiences all the time. I've gone to every single DreamHack Atlanta since 2017. Even before Fortnite, watching Halo there. It was I'm going to every single one of these because I don't care how much money it costs. It's the coolest experience that you will
it's
ever
100% worth it.
Especially if you're in the Fortnite com with these Fortnite tournaments and the BYOCs, man. It is an unbelievable experience. That honestly, if you have the money to do it, even if it's a little over your budget, it is worth it in my opinion to go travel to these places because it is the absolute coolest experience.
I mean, maybe tell me if you resonate with this, because this most recent Dallas this year felt even more magical than a lot of the other ones.
It's
for me
because of the stakes of the tournament. It's you're putting a lot of money into this, and plus the LAN qualification. So you have everyone who's anyone that is coming to play these tournaments in the Fortnite com, whether it be the top of the top pros. You got your Boogas, you got your Clixes, you have your Queasies. Everyone's there from around the world, and then you have the top of the top content creators too. It's you're gonna go IRL stream or you're gonna go stream there. DreamHack's a crazy place, and especially definitely this most recent one was the coolest experience that I've had going to a LAN, and I've been to a lot of them. But it was really great.
Well, I mean, it was agree. As soon as it ended, everyone was like, okay, what are our plans for Atlanta? Everyone was like, oh my, they were riding that high really hard. And I know Dallas was just, I mean, magical for me, because it was like you said, anyone who was anybody was there. And especially after Invitational was incredible, and I didn't know anyone. So now being involved, being in an org, having made all these connections and knowing these people, getting to meet and see people that I knew, and make even more connections based on who they knew. I talked to basically everyone, man. And it was just everyone lowers their egos. I mean, there was
it felt like a family there. That's
it did. And that's, and it really does. And it is, I advocate the same thing. If you can afford it at all, if you can make it work in any way, shape, or form, it is absolutely 100% worth it to go to whatever LAN experience you can. Because it brings a new appreciation and I think a new life to esports and to this community that it's hard to, you can't really replicate that online. And you get a deeper, I mean, I know everyone that I've met at a LAN, I have a different relationship with than people that I have only known online in the com. They're just different types of friends for me. There are people that I'm these are my ride or dies. I know I've got a group chat going from Dallas of 4 or 5 guys that I would literally die for. It's just because we just bonded so much over that weekend.
So annoyed that I couldn't go, bro.
Yeah, we'll get you to TwitchCon in Atlanta or however many.
Atlanta is the bigger one that I'm more hyped about.
So, speaking of Dallas, you went with your girlfriend, Nicole. How, I mean, you guys are like kind of known as like one of the top power couples in the scene. Can you kind of give us insight into what that's like? One, just like dating another creator, but also like being a couple in the scene, having a girlfriend in the Fortnite scene, especially. I'm sure there are weird stories. I'm sure there's weird interactions in chat. Kind of just give us insight into that.
Yeah, that's a really cool question. I always said, like, if I was ever gonna have like a serious girlfriend, it was gonna be someone from this space, because there are very few people that can really understand the time commitments, the weird hours that happen, and sort of everything that's going on. It's like a weight off my shoulders to have a girl that actually is from that space, and I don't have to explain any of that to.
Right.
So that's one. That's a really cool thing. And two, like going to DreamHack together was really cool. Meeting everyone. I always said I definitely would. I'm not the person that would date a girl that is like feels like they're above everyone. And Nicole is like, let's say, known for being definitely like one of the nicer girls in the girl space for Fortnite.
Well, like, we can talk about that environment a little bit more
so
too, because
I mean, I didn't know there was so much there until I started dating Nicole, and then I kind of.
Dude, there is, dude.
There's so much, bro.
It is insane. It's like a whole underworld that people don't know about. Like, it is vicious, wild, dude. Anything that you think is like crazy in the Fortnite combo, it happens 10 times a day underground in like the female Fortnite scene. It's crazy, dude. Yeah.
I mean, that it's cool to have her and her to be friends with everyone too. Is really neat. And specifically having her involved in like my streaming stuff and be in my chats is like really cool, especially because we're long distance, and it's like if she wants to see me, she knows I'm on stream, and I know she's on stream, either one. In terms
do you think
of
do you think that's helped you like in your journey? Like, do you think like having her that close and that involved and understanding all of it, do you think that helps you as a creator? Do you think it's like boosted you in any way?
I mean, I was even through all of college, when I was grinding, streaming, I mean, even just school in general, it was like I was very against having a girlfriend that sort of tie me down with that sort of thing. And now having her, it's like I'm now the complete opposite thought of that. It's like I kind of I understand. You kind of need that. That's like a different aspect in terms of motivation and self growth and things like that as you like get older. That's become really important to me, and to have her there, it's definitely been a motivator for me to just show up every day and like make sure I'm the best I can be. 100%.
Are there like oddities, or like, I mean, obviously there are some unique things, like she also streams, and that gives opportunity for the kind of, typical Twitch female streamer interactions, but especially in the Fortnite com, being younger, more mature, all that stuff. Are there like, how do you kind of deal with that? Because I'm sure there are horror stories, and I mean, I know I've talked to you about one or two, and I've talked to her about a time or two about those things. But like, how do you kind of, have you had to learn to deal with that? How do you kind of manage that?
I mean, it has been a constant learning environment for both of us, honestly. And I'm very headstrong, and what people say to me does not matter. But if someone says something about my girlfriend, it's like I get really annoyed, just because it's like, well, one, I will say Nicole is very strong as well, and she really doesn't care about stuff like that. But also at a certain point, it's like a lot of people will say things, and it'll just, I mean, eventually it'll get under your skin. And so specifically in console, it's like a lot of these kids are super young, and they just don't care what they say at all.
Well, they think it's online. There's no consequences. Like, to them, it just doesn't matter. Oh, I'm saying it online. It can't affect people. They don't really think or care about how it's affecting somebody's life.
I mean, not even just saying things, like even doing things. It's like I've had some really weird like stalkerish situations, and I mean, a lot of these kids get really weird, and like whenever they, I mean, it's the thing, like, man, we made this decision to have our relationship public, so these are kind of the consequences of an online public relationship. It's like these kids, if they want to get under your skin, they're gonna take what you know is like the number one thing to get under your skin, which is like your significant other. It's like they're gonna go after that, which is tough for me, because it's like it's hard to put her in that position where it's like I know these kids are coming from me to attack you for literally no reason, just because they hate me for no reason as well. So. Yeah, I think at this point it's like we're very like, I don't say numb to that stuff, but it's like it doesn't bother us anymore.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of like we have a really good group of people around us that like friends with and things like that. And so,
I was just about to ask about kind of your circle and how you've had to, because I think people have different views on this, but I think especially having like being a couple in the scene, like I would imagine that that weirdness or those like interactions aren't just in chat, because I know like for me, even as a single creator, I have a lot of like creators now, a lot, I don't want to say that, but there are definitely a handful of people that I steer away from, and like there are like friend groups and whatever, like I'm not out to make enemies, but just kind of by virtue of how I am and I stand up for certain things and whatever, like there are moments where I've had disagreements with people that can't be resolved. Have you had like, do you think as a couple, have you had anything that like, do you think you have additional of that? Are there people that you like, creators that you've had to avoid? And you don't have to like name drop or anything, but do you find any like toxicity or you know, whatever, hostility in the creator space?
I mean, honestly, before DreamHack, I definitely would, definitely for sure. Even now, probably a little bit. It's, I mean, a lot of it is like a jealousy thing, I guess, in terms of the toxicity thing with other people. But I mean, honestly, I'm very protective, and I sort of had this conversation with Nicole before we went to DreamHack. I was like, if there is any weirdos that come up to you, not even like anyone specifically, but it's like if there's anyone that comes up to you that you don't like or said something that was like weird, like you need to come get me instantly and I'll handle that. But it's like I mean, even another thing talking about DreamHack, it's like it was really cool to sort of see the creators that we've been close to in person, and it's like once you see the real people that are online acting like this to you in a really positive way, not negative, and then you see them in person and then they're the same person, it's like it's cool to have that. And the negative stuff that happens after that, it doesn't even matter, because it's like you've seen the real people that you actually want to interact with in real life, and you've met them in terms of who we want to like interact with as a couple, and like the creators that we know, I've got to know through her, she's gotten to know through me. It was cool to see them in real life, and sort of like I mean, even after DreamHack, it was like the negative stuff that happened, it was even less, because it just doesn't matter anymore, because we're not going to see those weirdos in real life. They're never going to go to those events. It doesn't matter at that point.
Right. Do you guys say? Would you say that you guys keep your circle small, like compared to what you know, maybe about other creators?
100%. Yeah, I think so. Like I said, I've gotten to know people that from her that I didn't know before her, and she's gotten to know a lot of people from me that she didn't know before me. And it's cool to combine those worlds together. I mean, the short answer is yes, for sure.
Yeah, I can say that I was certainly glad that, because I mean, we met very briefly in passing. Like I was just kind of I was tailing T-Church. I don't even remember what we were on the way to moving a setup or something that we were doing. We were on the way. It was before one of the heats, but just very quickly, like he stopped and talked to you guys, and I got to meet both of you. And I mean, even just from that, I mean, I remember there was a night where I was kind of having one of those nights, you know, and I tweeted a couple things, and like you reached out to me and just like getting to see, oh wow, like this guy is like that genuine and kind. And like Nicole, I've had an interaction or two with too. Met her through Mace, and both of you are just like the nicest people. And it taught me yet again, man, like everyone who has a reputation in the everyone that I've met personally that has had like a bad reputation are like some of the nicest, best people. And neither of you have like a terrible one, but like, there are definitely people out there that don't like you or don't like Nicole, or, and there are people out there that don't like me, but like after having interactions with both of you, you're both kind, positive people. So it's like, oh man, it says something about the people that, have a bad view of you, or whatever. But, I'm thankful to have met both of you, because you're just really cool, positive people that I think we need more of in the space.
For sure.
And especially you. I
appreciate that, man.
Being in a position, right, where,
they seem very
I mean, being in a position where you're influencing, like you said, that console generation, those younger guys and whatever. I take that responsibility seriously for me. And I think I would imagine you're the type of person that takes that seriously as well, of kind of being a role model, as a creator.
Definitely.
Because I mean, it is. I've been a youth esports coach for 2 or 3 years now, and I've seen how that can go wrong. I've seen how the Clixes and the Rons and all of those have influenced that generation because they don't know what's content and what's not, and they just start emulating all of it, from how they treat women to how they view money and fame and whatever. And I've seen that go wrong. So I admire that you're the type of person that I would feel comfortable like, oh yeah, I can leave a kid with him and he would turn out like well, even from just like the kindness that you showed me.
Ever.
No, I mean, that's serious, man. Like that message that you sent me really did, like, I was like, damn, like he's just a genuine, he didn't have to do that. And you really didn't know me, and it was like, you just extended that kindness, and that's just a lesson for life. Like you never know who's going to need that in that moment. And like you taking the time, like that was just an important thing, like for me. And I know that there are other people that need it even more than I do every day, and just choosing to be kind as opposed to, ignoring it or even being negative, can just, it can save a person. It can change a person. It can, just leaving the world better than you found it. And that's a really important thing.
Well, this is a really good roll into like our next question, where like the role model you become for the content community, or the role model you become for the kids in this community, the Fortnite community in general, has led you as a content creator to also become a part of Moon, which I'm pretty sure you've been a part of for a little bit of time now, correct? How long have you been on Moon for, actually?
It's been over 1.5 years at this point.
Yeah, which is crazy because a lot of people in this community, even the bigger pros, even all that, they stay on teams for a certain amount of time and leave maybe by the end of the year, maybe before the end of the year, whatever it is. You've been on Moon for 1.5 years, which is amazing. How has that experience been with Moon? Like, how they treated you? What have you like? What have they given you? Like, what is it that makes you want to stay on Moon? What makes you not want to explore other opportunities? Kind of dive into that a little bit.
I mean, that's such a important question in terms of everything that I do, mostly because it's like, I mean, Moon is basically like the reason I've been a full-time creator for the past year. Like, I'm so loyal to the people that give me like a shot, and like in terms of like me coming up and growing. And that's very important to me. And whenever I sort of see an up and coming talent or someone that I know has a lot of growth potential, which specifically I'm talking about Teddy Moss, who is the owner of Moon. He has a ton of business experience. I could get into that for a while, but he specifically is super passionate about what he does in terms of Fortnite Esports specifically. He runs a channel on YouTube called Clutch Up. It's it's the best competitive content for Fortnite you will ever see. And I mean, just the amount of conversations I've had with him, it's like he really has a passion for the space. He has a passion for the creators in it, the professional players in it, and really wants it to grow. And that is the number one thing that I am looking for in an org is the passion of the leaders in the organization that have a passion to grow it and grow the space at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I can resonate with that 100%. I have no plans of leaving PL anytime soon, and that's because I had those conversations with Avaft, Jank, and Sad, the owners. And we talked about that. We talked about my values, what I want to do as a creator, why I even started in the first place. I mean, because for me, I started as a creator because I saw a distinct lack of role models that were also entertaining. I think there are people who are entertaining and there are people who are role models, but there are very few people who bridge that gap. I mean, like, for example, Nick A30. I respect the hell out of what he's doing, but no one older than 10 years old is watching that man. You know what I mean? And like, so you have 100%. This completely untapped market of people who are not being, I don't want to say preached to, but you know what I mean? Like where they're being modeled, you know, morals and, you know, all of this stuff, because they're not being entertained by it. I mean, you have to captivate their attention and make them want to watch you in order to be able to influence them. And that, you know, so like that was where I got into the space and talking to them, like they feel for this community, they feel for the pro scene, the Fortnite comm as a whole, and they want to keep developing it. And that's why they keep doing what they're doing. And, you know, like you said, I don't really care where we get in terms of monies or views or whatever. If that goes away, like that is the foundation of it. And we talked about it with creators as well. Like that passion, you need to have that. And that is, it's like, those are the people you want to be working with. Those are the people you want to be around. Because those are the people at the end of the day, even though they're not in it for the money and in it for the longevity, those are the ones who are going to have it. Like they're going to be the ones that are successful in the space because they're not doing it for those reasons. They're doing it for something beyond themselves. And I talk about this a lot of like, there are two very distinct people in esports. There's someone who's only in it for themselves and the fame and the money and the clout and all that, and the people who are in it for something greater than themselves. That can be as simple as entertainment. That can be life purpose. It can be spiritual. It can be whatever. But the people who are in it for something other than themselves become very clear. They shine like lights amongst everyone else. And they're the people that you want to surround yourself with. And I think, I mean, everyone that I've interacted with at Moon, like T-Church is a super close friend of mine. And I love the kid to death, and he resonates that same thing as well. Obviously, guy, you saying that in this conversation, like hearing that is like, oh, now if Moon needs anything, I'm there. Because like it's like, we may be separate orgs or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's like it's about something much greater than any of that. And it's great to hear that that's how the leadership's being run and all of that.
I mean, I think not to name drop any org specifically, but like there's a difference in an org that signs a bunch of players.
I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I
think it's come up in our
honestly,
last
there's a few. There really is a few. But there's a difference in an org that signs a bunch of players because they have a bunch of money, and an org that signs a few players and creators, but is also passionate about growing their brand and also passionate about the space of
PL took a chance on us, man. I mean, we had just started the channel. I mean, we did a vast episode like 4 or 5 episodes in, and from then on, I mean, we got on PL a month or some after, and like, I mean, even now we're sitting at 100 and something subscribers. I know that we're going to be much bigger than that. And they obviously saw the same thing, but they took a chance on us. They took a chance on me and Vishal, and like, I'm eternally grateful for that. And I'm working hard to develop PL too, because I know that all of the guys in there are doing it for the right reasons. They're doing it right. And like, it just makes me want to work 1,000 times harder for them to build my brand, to build PL's brand, and like build something that is built on the right foundations that can be kind of the marker to compare to in the scene. Like, this is how it should be. And really we're in a time right now where esports is like, it's at one of the lowest it's ever been. So it's like the people that are staying in it right now and developing, these are going to be the traditions and the practices and the foundations when esports comes back up in 5-10 years. We're going to be the CEOs, we're going to be the whatever, and we're shaping the industry now. And that's, I take that seriously. And I know that the people that I talk to and I want to surround myself with understand that and take it seriously as well. And like really you said, cool. there are orgs that are, there are orgs that are on both sides for sure. And it's very clear when you look at how they're run, the scandals that come out of them, even down to the people that they have. You see this disparity, and that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles, how the scene is gone. But the people who are running it that way and running their orgs that way are not going to last, and that's just kind of how it is. And we're seeing them crumble to the ground, some of them actively. But
they crumble within a year, man. It's pretty
some of them. I mean, how long was Extra around? 6 months, something like that. I mean, you talk about Extra 33. I mean, and we see these pop-ups all the time. But yeah, I mean, there are some there's a handful, I would say 5 or 6 come to mind right now of orgs that are doing a lot right in that regards, and who are going to be the titans when the industry kind of catches up to them, and when we build it up to where it's going to be. So
I mean, Fortnite I'll just say one more thing to end that specific thought, but Fortnite esports and specifically, it's like it's a very weird place to be an org in, because it's not like you have a lot of epic support. You don't have a lot of dev support. It's like you're in a game where it's like you could have someone on an org play with someone on a different org, and then play with someone on a different org the next week. You know, it's a lot different.
We signed DeRoller and Vert as a duo, and then they broke up, and now we just have 2 individuals.
Like,
no, you can't.
Them, like,
no,
you can't do
exactly. And that's just terrible. I mean, exactly.
I
mean, no, it is. It's a unique space, and we've talked about this a shit ton, but like the lack of org support specifically from Epic. I mean, even something as simple as like an org skin that would go in the shop. I mean, that alone would probably double at least the revenue that competitive makes if they just like each org, even if there was a buy-in for each org, I know that they would find the money.
To not be in.
No, I know, and it's just like, but I mean, Fort has the potential to be the best esport in the world, bar none. If it got the type of attention that CS:GO esports does, or really any other esport out there, if it got that kind of attention and support from the developer, it wouldn't even be close to like the monumental sensation that it could be. I mean, like World Cup would feel small, at least in my opinion. If Fort reached its maximum potential as an esport, and I think we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing an upward trend, in my opinion. People are like, "Oh, competitive's dying," and I think the spirit of competitive. There are a lot of people where that spirit is dying for them, but I'm as optimistic as I'll allow myself to be with Epic. But I'm somewhat optimistic about the LANs, Gamers 8. I mean, they're pouring a shit ton of money into that, and it's a really cool event. Copenhagen at the end of this year is going to be really cool. I'm really excited. I really hope I get to go to that. Because that's just going to be like, it's going to be the closest thing we've had to World Cup since World Cup, and like that's a really cool thing. The broadcast has improved tenfold. Even this is a website. I remember when they rolled out the website right before whatever Grands that was. That has like the clean feed, and it has the the broadcast feed, and like it. They did it for viewing parties. They did all that stuff. Like they had Aussie in mind and all that, and I love that. Like we're seeing small hints of it, and if they do want to revive competitive or build it to what it can be, we're seeing the first steps of, a multi-year plan. So don't lose hope. Like if you are passionate about this game, if you're passionate about competitive, continue to be in it, build it, take responsibility for it, and do as much as you can. Build it how you can. And, like someone like a Grifs has, start running scrims, or start, VOD reviewing, or making content, or whatever it is that you can to support, because ultimately it's going to be on our shoulders. You can't rely on Epic, and that's how it is. So kind of speaking of that, kind of speaking of the future and whatever, what's next for you? What are you cooking? What's what's going on for you in the near future?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're sort of transitioning to allow PC sort of in our community. I think, I mean, people will say there's a lot of scrim cords right now, and there is, but realistically, in this space right now, it's like there's not any like community-led customs, or like whatever like the Send Stick scrims used to be. I don't know if you remember Scented and Stick sort of had the collaboration Discord where they ran their own scrims. I think there's no really like, I mean, Manu left Vital, Ty Guy left KNG. It's like these guys are leaving as the creator of their like sort of scrim cord and like the competitive side of it. And there's nothing like that right now, because competitive's in such a weird place. And I think, dude, if people only understood like what we have done with console in terms of what me and Daniel have done specifically in terms of the tournaments that we run, we run the craziest tournaments, and they're ran to perfection, and there's nothing that goes wrong with them because our team is so crazy. Like, they're ran to perfection. We run teams of 8 tournaments where it's like 8v8 v8 v8 in the actual Fortnite game. It's perfect. It's amazing. We run random squad tournaments where you load into fills, and you get a random squad every single game. Dude, oh my gosh, I love that shit, man. It's like the coolest thing ever. And for now, like in the past, it's been only console. And so like to introduce PC in every platform, not just PC, but every platform into sort of our community, that is the goal. That's where we want to reach. We want to outreach, like, I mean, more creators sort of in the PC space. It's like, I want everyone to be a part of our community, because what I think we're doing is like one of the most unique things in Fortnite right now that no one's doing, and I want people to be a part of it.
Well, and content, man, Fortnite content right now is, I mean, it feels very similar to me of like the fashion show era. Like it is bone dry right now. There's not much going on. Like, I mean, I know for me, I'm like thinking about launching my YouTube, and I'm like, what the fuck can I make a video on? There's nothing in the game right now. I mean, I'm barely playing the game. Like, in full transparency, I'm barely playing the game. I love the game. I love the people. I love the creators. But I'm like, unless I'm playing squads with other creators or something, or doing something actively to like network or collaborate, I'm not playing the game. I'm playing any other game. Like, and that's just, I mean, it is.
Bro, it's gotten OW too much.
I have gotten re-obsessed with Overwatch. That is true. Dude, yeah, I mean, that's exciting. And it's like, you know, like I was talking about earlier, like that's people taking responsibility for the community that they love and doing something about it. You know, it's like, instead of just going, oh, well, it's dying, so I'm going to take my stuff and go, like sticking your feet in the ground and going, okay, I'm going to help revive this or help keep it alive for that next upward, you know, it's like, those are the people not only that are going to keep stuff alive, but are going to be successful when it does come back up, you know, and like they're only going to be more boosted. Like, you know, people who are staying in Fortnite right now, let's say Chapter 5 releases and it's like the best thing since, you know, the original game. All of a sudden, all the people who are in it right now, who are trudging through the mud, are going to see this massive boost of success. And like, that's, you get rewarded for sticking with something. And I think that's a lesson for life too. And speaking of lessons for life, at the end of every episode, Vishal, if you have anything else, you can stop me.
I think we've hit everything. No, I think we've hit everything for what we want to say.
At the end of every episode, we ask one question, and that is, if you had to give the audience one piece of advice, whether it's Fortnite related or content related, or just life related, what would it be?
And that is it. One piece of advice that I would give to anyone watching. Let's see. I think okay, I think the biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone watching is to go against the grain. And what I mean by that, like, I mean, that's the motto for anything that I do. Specifically, it's like, you kind of, regardless of what you think, what your parents think, what your friends around you think, if you really believe in something, man, and it is completely out of the ordinary, but you have full faith that it could really be something. I always say go for it, and whatever adversity is in your way, dude, it's like, it's so minimal to what the success you're gonna feel like once you actually reach that goal. To really just push against anything, that any norms that you think are a thing. Like, I mean, I'm like not pursuing my college degree and getting a job in that field because I want to be a full-time streamer. It's like, you know, I did sports that were completely out of the ordinary, and had massive dividends for me. I mean, I've gone through like a brain injury and a coma, and it's like I came out of that like completely.
Wait, really?
You were in a coma?
Yeah, man, I was in a coma for a day. I had I had a really bad brain injury with like a 20% survival rate, and
wow.
God damn.
Dude, like I would say even like that's not even the worst part. The worst part was the 4 to 6 months of recovery after, where I was completely bedridden and I couldn't do anything. Like,
you think that changed you as a person, or caused you to take more risks or anything?
Oh, dude, that was the biggest shift in my life in terms of why I'm successful now, because it's like I mean, I figured out what I wanted to do, man, because it's like life is way too short, and like, you might as well go for it, bro. And I just have no fears after
it goes so much with what you're talking about too, of like, I mean, I always, my phrase recently has been, the greatest failure is a failure to try, you know. And it's like, anything you think about doing, any failure that you could face none of them are as big as failing to try and thinking what could have been, what if, whatever. Like, and it's, it goes against with it goes again with what you're saying of like going against the grain. It's like people are going to tell you to fit into this life box of like, you go to high school, graduate, go to college, get a degree, get a job with that, work the 9 to 5, get a wife, kids, and then you die. And it's like, it's like, if you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. It's not a bad life by any means, but it's like, if you want to do something bigger, you want to do something better, you want to do something out of the ordinary. I can't remember who we had that said it, but it was like, it's crazy until you do it and it works. And then it's like, oh, damn. It might've been C-Mills. I think it was C-Mills.
I think it was C-Mills.
Yeah, but it's nuts, to like, just say the people who drop out of college to be a full-time creator until they do it and until they make it full-time and they're making way more money than they would and they're like feel fulfilled in their life. And that's like, college will always be there. The normal 9 to 5 will always be there, but like, do not be afraid to go against the grain and try that thing, because the greatest failure is the failure to try and not know what could have been. And I mean, that fuels me in my everyday life too. And the kind of what we were all talking about of like, I don't really care or know what I would do if it weren't for what I'm doing right now, because I don't want to do anything else. And I'm too afraid to, quit now to know what could have been. I
think for me, it's more like, if again, like I said earlier, having a backup plan, I feel like would restrict me from going to my full potential, because then I'll always know, if it fails I'll go to this. Like, like there's nothing there. It's either film, it's either this, I put it together, or it doesn't work and I go find something else.
Well, I mean, there you have it. Just go against the grain, do what you think you want to or need to do. And that's, if you really like Grifs was saying, if you really believe with your whole heart that you want to or need to, then go for it. The worst that can happen is you end up doing, what you're thinking about, college or 9 to 5 anyway. And that's fine. It's like, at least you tried, at least right, what would have been. Ladies and gentlemen,
let me do it.
Okay. All right, go ahead. Wow.
All right. I don't do this a lot. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed the podcast for today. We very much enjoyed having Mr. Grifs on. Grifs, it was amazing having you. If you have any final,
appreciate you guys.
We appreciate you as well. If you have any final comments, go ahead and send them now. Other than that, let us know down below if you agree with any of our points, disagree, whatever it is. We'll check them out. And make sure to check out the Pipeline store. It will be linked down below. Check out Griff's socials, also linked down below, with the previous GhostComms podcast and our socials. Other than that, I think we'll just catch you guys next Friday. Hey, everybody.
Peace.